3 weeks ago, a journalist named Tom O'Neill sat down in front of Congress. Now, for the first time in about 50 years, the government was holding a hearing on a CIA program called MK Ultra, mind control, drugs given to Americans who never agreed to it. Tom O'Neill spent 20 years on one piece of it, one doctor, one clinic in a San Francisco neighborhood at one very specific moment in history.
My name is Tom O'Neill, and in 1999, I accepted a magazine assignment to write a story about murders committed by a group of hippies called the Manson family. For those unfamiliar with this horrific episode of American history, in the summer of 1969, 4 young people acting on the orders of a cult leader named Charles Manson went to the home of movie director Roman Polanski and murdered everyone they found there, including his 8.5-month pregnant wife, the actress Sharon Tate.
And what he found is one of the strangest, truest stories I know. So let's set the table, because this part isn't theory, it's admitted, it's on the record. So in 1953, the CIA started a program called MK Ultra. The fear was that the Soviets and the Chinese had figured out mind control, and America needed to catch up. So the CIA went looking for a way to take a human being apart and rebuild this person back together. So erase a personality completely and implant a new one. Make someone do something they'd never otherwise do. And to find out if it was possible, they experimented on people without their consent. They used hypnosis, LSD, electroshock therapy, sensory deprivation on prisoners, on hospital patients, and on ordinary citizens who had no idea they were part of it. It ran 20 years until 1973. This is not the strange part, however. This is the documented part. The government admits to all of it. The strange part is a doctor named Louis Jolyon West. They called him Jolly.
Charles Manson, a barely literate ex-con, acquired the ability to persuade ordinary young people to murder complete strangers simply because he had told them to. The pursuit of the answer to that question led me to Dr. Louis Jolyon West, known to his friends as Jolly. West was one of the most influential psychiatrists in America. During his career, he crossed paths with some of the most controversial events of the 20th century, including the Patty Hearst kidnapping case and the aftermath of the John F. Kennedy assassination investigation.
Jolly West was one of MK Ultra's men, a psychiatrist, an expert in hypnosis, in interrogation, and this is his own specialty, implanting false memories. So making people remember things that actually never even happened. He's most famous for one grotesque experiment. In 1962, Jolly West wanted to study aggression. So he injected an elephant named Tusko with LSD. And not just a small dosage. He gave the animal roughly 1,400 times the dose that causes effects in human beings. And of course, in less than 2 hours, the elephant just flat out died. That's this man. That's who he is. That's his judgment. And that's the level of care he takes with an innocent life. So now hold that image in your mind for just a second, because here's where it turns. In March of 1967, Jolly West moved to San Francisco, to one neighborhood in particular. Jolly West moved to the Haight-Ashbury. And this was the summer of love, ground zero for the hippie movement. Thousands of young people descended upon Haight-Ashbury, a lot of them experimenting with exactly the same drugs that Jolly West had spent his career studying. So, West sets up shop right in the middle of it. But before we follow him in Haight-Ashbury, you need to know where else this man turns up. Because it's not just in Charles Manson's neighborhood, it's one of the other biggest crimes of the decade. So go back 3 years, from 1967 to 1964. President Kennedy is dead. His accused assassin, Lee Harvey Oswald, is also dead, shot on live TV 2 days later by a Dallas nightclub owner named Jack Ruby. So now, there's one man alive who could explain why Oswald was shot. Jack Ruby, and Ruby is about to testify to the Warren Commission, the official investigation into the assassination. Okay, so that sets the stage. Right before that testimony, a psychiatrist is brought in to examine Ruby in his jail cell. The psychiatrist is Jolly West. The same Jolly West that is the MK Ultra man, the same guy who is going to set up in the Haight-Ashbury, the mind control and the false memory specialist. So he examines Ruby all by himself, and he emerges to declare that Ruby has suffered an acute psychotic break, that he's insane, he's paranoid, and he's delusional. And sure enough, when Ruby does testify, he comes across as completely unhinged. He rambles. He can never clearly explain why he killed Oswald. The trial judge, who watched Ruby for hours, said he never saw behavior that West had described. Now, here's the part that West left out of his report. He was working for the CIA. Okay, now I have to stop and be careful, because this is exactly where these stories sort of go off the rails. Here is what is documented. West did examine Ruby. There's a signed report. It's dated April 1964, sitting in a museum somewhere. West was an MK Ultra contractor. That's also established. And he did not disclose the CIA connection to the court or to the public. All of that is fact. Here is what is not proven: that anyone sent him there to silence Ruby. That's just theory. You can connect the dots yourself. O'Neill raises it, but he doesn't prove it, and neither will I. But sit with just that documented part. A CIA mind control doctor, hiding that he worked for the CIA, examined the one man who could complicate the JFK story right before he testified, and he declared him insane. You don't need the theory. The facts are unsettling enough. Now, back to San Francisco. So officially, Jolly West came to San Francisco on a public health grant to study the hippies, to understand the counterculture. That was his cover story. What Tom O'Neill found in his book Chaos is that in the records is that West set up what he described as, in his own writings, a laboratory disguised as a hippie crash pad. So let me say that again. A laboratory disguised as a hippie crash pad. Crazy. The safe house. This is where young people would come. They'd come in, they'd feel welcome, they could take drugs, and be observed and be studied by a CIA mind control specialist who was an expert in dosing people without their knowledge. And it was funded through the usual layers by the CIA and multiple agencies, what have you. So picture the setup. You've got a CIA doctor who specializes in LSD and false memories and breaking people down, and you've placed him in the one neighborhood in America with the highest concentration of young, unmoored, drug experimenting kids in the country. And he built a house designed to bring them in, a crash pad. And then into that same neighborhood walks in a guy named Charles Manson. Charles Manson got out of prison in 1967. And where, of course, did he go? San Francisco, Haight-Ashbury, the exact same neighborhood at the exact same time that Jolly West had just set up shop. And Manson does something in the next 2 years that no one has fully explained. He takes a group of ordinary young people, mostly young women, from normal families, and Manson rebuilds them, erases who they were, installs total devotion, gets them to a place where they kill strangers on his say-so and feeling nothing, which is, and I want you to sit with this, exactly the thing MK Ultra was trying to learn how to do. The CIA spent 20 years and untold millions trying to figure out how to turn a normal person into someone who would kill on command, because they thought the Russians and the Chinese were doing this. And a semi-literate ex-con did it in a garage in the same neighborhood as their doctor, seemingly for free. So here's the connection that Tom O'Neill kept pulling on. There was a place in the Haight-Ashbury called the Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic. Free healthcare for hippies, basically, and a good thing on its face, right? Manson and his family were regulars there. Members like Susan Atkins, who would later commit some of the murders, got treatment at the clinic. And the clinic was also home to something called the Amphetamine Research Project. This was a study of the role drugs played in psychotic violence. So take a guess, take a wild guess who is connected to the research scene at that clinic. Yep, Jolly West. So now the circle closes a little bit tighter. The CIA's mind control doctor and the man who is about to run the most infamous mind control operation in American history were frequenting the same small clinic in the same few blocks at the exact same time. Did they meet? Did West study Manson? Did Manson learn anything there? Well, Tom O'Neill spent 20 years trying to answer that. And here's the honest truth about what he found. Tom O'Neill can't prove it. 20 years, 60 pages of footnotes, and Mr. O'Neill will tell you flat out that he just cannot put Charles Manson in a room with Jolly West and prove the CIA built the Manson family. And that's exactly why I trust him. Because think about it, the incentive, the version that sells millions of copies of his book, Chaos, is the CIA created Charles Manson. And here's the proof. He could have written that. He had every reason to. But because he can't prove it, he can't back it up, he wouldn't. And he refused to pretend that he could. So, what he says, though, is the most haunting thing in the whole book. Quote, "I still don't know what happened, but I know what we were told isn't what happened." End quote. That's not a conspiracy theorist. That's just the opposite. That's a man who's found something genuinely strange, chased it for 2 decades, and then had the discipline to stop at the edge of what he could prove. So, what were we told? So, everything you think you know about the Manson murders comes from one book. It's called Helter Skelter. It's super famous. It was written by Vincent Bugliosi, the prosecutor who put Manson away. It came out in 1974 and became the best-selling true crime book in all of history. And the motive it sells you is wild. Bugliosi argued that Manson ordered the murders to start an apocalyptic race war, one he supposedly believed was predicted by the Beatles song. Manson and the family would hide in a hole in the desert, wait out the war, and emerge to rule the world. That's the story, at least. Race war, Beatles, bottomless pit in the desert. Here's the problem. There was no physical evidence tying Manson to the murder scenes. And Tom O'Neill found that even Bugliosi, in an interview, admitted he didn't actually believe Manson bought the whole race war thing. Cops on the case never believed it either. They always thought that the real motive was more mundane. So where did Helter Skelter come from? Well, it came from a prosecutor who needed to convict a man that he had little to no physical evidence against, and who was about to write a book. And that's the thing I keep coming back to. It's a tidy story is a powerful thing. A crazy cult leader, crazy race war fantasy, case closed. It fits on a book jacket. It lets everyone sleep. It ends all the questions. Nice and tidy. And the moment the story took hold, everything else stopped being interesting. Nobody was asking why a CIA mind control doctor was 3 blocks away. No one was asking why Manson kept getting released by his parole officers when he violated parole over and over again. Nobody was asking who Jolly West really was, because we already had our answer. It was the Beatles. It was a hole in the desert. The tidy story didn't just simplify the Manson murders, it sort of buried everything underneath it. And there's a reason that stuff is so hard to dig back up. So come on back to that congressional hearing for a second that we started with. The thing they kept hammering, the thing that made the whole room really kind of angry, wasn't just a theory, it was the facts. Okay, so in 1973, as MK Ultra wound down, the CIA director ordered the files destroyed. Not sealed, not classified, destroyed. 20 years of records on what they did to American citizens, deliberately burned so that no one could ever fully reconstruct it. And this is basically why Tom O'Neill can't prove his claims. All the records are gone.
Because I believe Congress was never told the truth about what this program actually achieved. In fact, I believe the agency misled Congress in 1977 when it characterized MK Ultra as a failure.
So this means when someone says there's no proof the CIA was involved with Manson, they're right. There isn't. It's gone. That's because the people who would have kept that proof made sure that it doesn't exist anymore. And it's an outrage. So you can't destroy the evidence and then win the argument by pointing out that there's no evidence. That's not an acquittal. That's just a cover-up. And that cover-up worked. So here's where it leaves us. And I'm going to be as honest with you as Tom O'Neill is with us. I can't tell you that the CIA created Charles Manson. Nobody can. The documents that would prove it or disprove it were turned to ash in 1973. But I can tell you what's true. 1. A CIA mind control doctor ran a disguised laboratory in Haight-Ashbury. 2. Manson built his family in the same neighborhood at the same time, doing the exact same thing that the doctor's programs were designed to learn. 3. They shared a clinic. And the story we all got instead was about some Beatles song. Maybe it's a coincidence, but the only reason we get to call it a coincidence is that someone made sure we'd never, ever know for certain. So if this got you, read the book. It's called Chaos. It's by Tom O'Neill. It's 20 years of work, and he's more honest about what he couldn't prove than most people are about what they can. I put the link in the description. You can check it out. The declassified MK Ultra files that did survive are sitting in the CIA's own reading room online right now. You can go read what your government admits to tonight for free. I would suggest maybe checking that out. And don't take my word for any of it. Go look. Then tell me. They burned the files in 1973. What were they burning? What were they hiding? Comments? Go. I'll see you in the next rabbit hole.